With Arsenal losing to Newcastle midweek and with the league and Champions League looking unlikely, Mikel Arteta is in trouble. Would you not say, Kenny?
And with that being said, welcome back to another episode of the Basement Ballers. You guessed it, we're talking about Arteta and his illustrious career at Arsenal to date.
Illustrious?
Illustrious.
So Arsenal are at a crossroads right now. So as I mentioned earlier, they lost to Newcastle midweek, which means that they're likely to finish another season trophyless, right? Because the league is looking probably unlikely, especially that as of today, February 9th, Liverpool are out of the FA Cup, meaning that they have even more of a reason to focus on the league. And the Champions League and Arsenal go together. They don't go together. I was thinking of a joke, but I can't think of shit.
Like toothpaste and orange juice.
Sure, yeah. Point is, Arteta has won 1 out of 21 trophies available to him so far, has spent a queen's ransom on fucking transfers. Most of them have been dog shit, Kai Havertz. So, should he be in trouble? Should he be sacked?
Like currently, right now?
Not now, but I'd say he goes end of the season trophyless, right? Which is, like I said, is probably likely. What do you think?
Well, Arteta's results in terms of like positioning in the league have been pretty solid. Obviously, his worst season being his first season that he was there, where they finished 8th. But since then, they finished 5th and then 2nd. I mean, right now, obviously the season's still going right now, but then they finished 2nd last 2 seasons, and then this season they're still fighting for that place. So he's fighting for Champions League positions, but he's not fighting for trophies. And when you're spending that kind of money, and when you're like a big 6 club like Arsenal, you need to be winning trophies.
So obviously, I feel like to make this fair, we need to add some context. So before Arteta came, Arsenal were kind of a club who were just content of making top 4. The last 2 years of Wenger, obviously, Arsenal did not make top 4. With Unai Emery there, they finished 5th in his first year, lost the Europa League final to Chelsea, and then the year after just spiraled completely out of control, with Arsenal being, I believe, like 9th or 10th by the time Emery got sacked. So Arteta comes in, a guy who was Pep's cone man, as people like to call him. And for the first year to 2, outside of the FA Cup win, was dog shit. So they finished 8th in his like half season there, which I won't blame on him because he came mid-season. But then his first full season, they also finished 8th. And that season, if I remember correctly, his only transfers that year were, I think, probably Willian and I think Cedric, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it could have been more. Point is, they finished 8th that year with people calling for his head, especially after Arsenal lose to Villarreal in the Europa League semi-final to Unai Emery. But the year after started to look up a bit. 2022, they finished 5th place, bottled top 4 to Spurs in the last 2-3 weeks of the year. Lost 3-0 to Spurs as well. So people were calling for him to be sacked then. But then after, Arsenal 2022-23 is when his project started to really take off. They obviously finished 2nd that year despite leading the league for 99.9% of the season. Bottled it at the end. Then he goes and signs Kai fucking Havertz for the year after. And Arsenal, I'm not going to say they bottled it because they were catching up to City for most of the year. But still, they lost the league by 2 points. And now this year, despite them being 2nd, this is the worst football I've seen Arsenal play since Arteta's been manager, really. So people are essentially wondering if this is the peak of it. Has he taken this team as far as he could?
Well, I think Arteta's notorious for finishing games. If they don't go his way, he goes to the media and starts talking shit. His mentality can be poor at times, if I'm being honest, and that can sort of leak into players. The thing is about Arsenal.
Yeah, he blamed the ball against Newcastle, right?
Yeah, it just there's always a reason why his team lost, and it's never really his team. Now, to be fair to him, his front 3 this season have been absolutely shambolic, not because of anything that he can control. It's just that players like Saka are getting injured. Obviously, Martinelli got injured last game. He has been having to rely on some pretty fraudulent players.
But this is where people would counter you because, okay, so you say that's not his fault, but his front 3 right now consists of Trossard, a player he signed, Havertz, a player Trossard to me is a good sign, don't get me wrong. Havertz, a player he didn't need to sign. He could have signed a way better striker. Havertz didn't need to sign. Martinelli, who, he didn't sign. Cool. And now Martinelli has done his hamstring as well, by the way. I don't know if you watched the last game against Newcastle, but he did his hamstring too, so he's going to be out for a while. Saka, who, granted, he He didn't, obviously, Saka's an academy player, but if Arteta had made signings, he wouldn't have had to rely on Saka so much, and Saka would not have been used like a sponge for the last 5 years by Arteta. And that is why people criticize him, because if you look at the bench depth, obviously we have Gabby Jesus, who's always injured, Sterling, who's dog shit, Noiri, who's very young, obviously, and that's essentially our attack, if I'm not mistaken. And you could say the owners have not backed him, but that would be false. Obviously, they've backed him with, as I mentioned earlier, 600 million great British pounds, right? And also, he came out and said that Stan and Josh Kroenke are the best owners he's ever worked with. He said, quote, "I've never seen ownership like this. They are the hungriest sports people I've met." This is someone who worked at Man City, by the way. So the criticism, I personally think it's valid, because this whole team is his team. So, you know what I mean?
I wholeheartedly agree, because when you consider that that Arsenal have been the fourth highest net spend, even above Manchester City and Liverpool, and the fact that they've been so hungry for trophies and not being satisfied, like they're spending all the money, they're not getting the result that they wish, getting second and simply finishing with a Champions League qualification is certainly not enough. Considering how much money was spent, the quality of players that the Arsenal has, and of course, like even especially when you consider this season, when arguably their greatest rivals, Manchester City, fall off a cliff, and you're still not leading the Premier League title race.
Mm-hmm.
Things need to be questioned, and Arteta has to be at the forefront of that questioning, because he's had so many seasons, because he's had so much money, and because you cannot use the Manchester City excuse anymore. What's the problem?
I personally think, before I mention the problems, I would like to go on record to say that Arteta and his tenure at Arsenal, I believe, has largely been a success, based on the fact that when he came in, Arsenal were a train wreck, and no one expected Arsenal to be consistently competing for titles and Champions League. Granted, they're not winning them, but they are competing for them, which is something they haven't been doing for years before he got there. Also, if you look at his record against Big Six teams in the Premier League, so from 2014 to 2019, the 5 years before he joined, Arsenal's record against the Big Six were 13 wins, 22 draws, and 25 losses. Since he's been there, the record is 25 wins, 10 draws, and 18 losses. So that's 25 wins out of, 51? That's a 50% win rate against the Big Six since he's been there. So he has done some very good things. But the issue, I think, that has plagued them for some time is, first of all, as you mentioned earlier, his mentality is clearly not, because for every nice quote he says about fighting and blah, 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 he also comes out with bullshit of, the ball is the reason why we lost to Newcastle. And yeah, he's going to say that quote is taken out of context, but still, it's not a good look for you, buddy, by blaming the ball. Other side, he said a lot of really dumb shit. Like last year, he said a lot of really dumb shit. I'm trying to think. I can't think of something right now. The most recent example I have is like the ball incident. But like, there's that. Also, I think his signings, whether he's the one who signed them or not, he's agreeing to the signings. I think what has nuked his project was signing Kai Havertz. And before people tell me that Havertz statistically has been decent, whatever, I want you to actually watch him play and tell me if he's been a decent signing. His signing has single-handedly nuked our attacking play. It's made us slow. It's not fun to watch.
No, it's not. And he put up a big stinker against Newcastle during the week. And he's very much a striker that gets in good positions but just can't finish. And you pay 60 million for the brother that can't finish. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously as a Liverpool fan, we already know what that's like. But he needs to be questioned. And the thing is like, at the end of the day, we all know how the business of football works. When failure after failure after failure, they just got out the Carabao Cup, obviously midweek. They lost the FA Cup against Manchester United. In the penalties.
I forgot to mention that, losing to the worst Man United team in history that I've ever seen, anyways, at home in the FA Cup as well.
Yep. And so I wouldn't, as an Arsenal fan, I would not be satisfied with the second place finishes that they've been getting. You guys need to be striving for more than that. Obviously, you're still in the Champions League. The Premier League title race is not over by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you just slapped Manchester City last week. So, I mean, there's still, and obviously Liverpool just lost to fucking Plymouth. So you never know what happens there.
And Granted, listen, is finishing second place by only like last year we had 89 points and lost to Man City, finished on 91. 89 points in most Premier League seasons wins you the league, yes. And also the year before, we were up by a lot, and then the experience got to us, and we finished the league on 84 points, 5 behind Man City. And 84 points could have won you the league in other years, yes. But then the question comes from the fact that, okay, you say Man City, have this great team, whatever. Arsenal's owners have a lot of, they're worth $10 billion. Arsenal's owners can spend. And if you're going to blame the owners, okay, well, you have to blame Arteta because he's the one who publicly backs these owners.
Of course.
He could come out and say, most people do not satisfied with the owners. Look at Antonio Conte. Yeah, he's toxic and leaves clubs after 2-3 years every time. But he's a successful guy. Why? Because he bitches and moans to the media. And what happens? He ends up getting the players he wants. 100%. Arteta, the issue with him is the players he's gotten. Like, out of all of Arteta's signings he's made like, I think, 40 to 50 signings probably since he's joined. I can tell you maybe like 10 that have been very good. I'm not going to list them now, but there isn't much is what I'm saying. Most of his signings have been duds. And granted, maybe he's not the one obviously he's not the one scouting them, but he's agreeing to them, obviously, because Stan and Josh have come out in the media and said that basically like they're fully backing him. So if you want to blame the owners, you have to look through Arteta as well because he backs these owners. And at a certain point, finishing second place, yes, to a very good Man City team. But as Getty mentioned earlier, they've been shit this year. And the Liverpool team that Arsenal are losing against right now are not like world beaters. Salah has 33. Jota is always injured. Diaz is decent, but he's not like wow. Nunez, Gakpo, they're not the greatest. The midfield, you know what I mean? Like Arsenal, in theory, should be winning this league. 100%. We've spent way more money than Liverpool over the last few years.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, there's a lot of results that Arsenal fans can go back to and be like, man, we should have really picked up 3 points. And this has been a consistent, like, at least to my memory, consistent theme in the last 3 seasons, including this season, which is, that one season where you guys where you guys were leading for most of the season and you bottled it at the end. You guys were dropping points at the end to West Ham and Southampton and
even against you guys, we're up 2-0 against Liverpool. With that game finishes 2-2, and that's the worst Liverpool team of probably the last like 5-6 years because you guys finished 5th that year.
We did, yeah.
So it was not that good outside of like maybe the COVID year, like the 2021 year. But you guys had injuries then, so there was an excuse. 2023, you guys just weren't that good.
No, we were way off the mark, and we managed to bring it back at Anfield, obviously. But then that was basically the start of the decline for Arsenal. But they were dropping points to mid fucking clubs. West Ham, Southampton, Forest that season were not great. So a lot of it you could like the frustration can be seen because a lot of it is like very controllable, very like you could have done something about it, but you didn't. You know
also,
what I mean?
the fact Arteta looks like a Lego head doesn't help because, dude, like I don't know, man. Like I feel like he's not stressed enough at his job because his hairline hasn't moved an inch since he got to Arsenal. Like I feel like he's not stressed enough to win these trophies. But
do you remember the last time Arteta finished a game where they didn't play very well and actually said, "Yeah, we didn't play very well"?
Never. There's the issue. Yeah, there's always an excuse. There's always something. But, anyways. Is it time for him to go? I don't know. I'm waiting until the end of the season. Obviously, you guys can let us know. I personally think either opinion is correct. I think if you want him to stay, I could see why. If you want him to go, I could see why. I'm personally still on the fence about it. I'm not sure. But you guys let us know in the comments. Peep our social medias, which will also be in the description. And give us likes and comments and love because we need it.
100%. And also, question of the day.
Yes.
If you are on the sack Arteta train, who would you like to come in and replace him? Okay, obviously the team has been built around an Arteta system, so
you have to keep that in mind when choosing this manager. But then again, we have rich owners, so we can just nuke the fucking system, get rid of these players, and buy new ones. We will obviously Arsenal won't do that, but in theory, you could use your imagination.
100%. And without further ado, guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Basement Ballers. Let us know what your thoughts are. Follow us on social media. And without further ado, we'll see you on the next video. Peace.